Hello everyone, welcome to Himalai IAS classes. This is KESHAV sir's IAS Prelims Lens. In this session, we will be covering modern India questions on later Mughals, advent of Europeans, British reforms, Viceroy and foreign policy. First question, in the context of Indian history, the principle of diarchy refers to A. Division of central legislature into two houses, B. Introduction of double government, central and state governments, C. Having two sets of rulers, one in London, another in Delhi, D. Division of the subjects delegated to the provinces into two categories. Here, the correct statement would be statement D, division of the subjects delegated to the provinces into two categories, which is known as transferred list and reserved list. This was brought into effect by the Government of India Act 1919, also known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. It was a bad experiment. So in the Government of India Act 1935, diarchy system in provinces was abolished. If you see the statement A, that talks about bicameral legislature. If you see the statement B, it would talk about federalism or federal structure. If you see statement 3, that is definitely wrong. So answer is option D. Next question, the object of Butler Committee in 1927 was to A. Define the jurisdiction of central and provincial governments. B. Define the powers of the Secretary of State for India. C. Impose censorship on national press. D. Improve the relationship between the Government of India and Indian states. 1927 was the time when Simon Commission came into India. The relation between India and British had soared up. So Butler Committee was trying to improve the relationship between the Government of India and the Indian states. So here the correct option would be D. Next question, who among the following were associated with the introduction of Rayatwari settlement in India during the British rule? 1. Lord Cornwallis, 2. Alexander Reed, 3. Thomas Munro. Select the correct answer using the code below. A. 1 only, B. 1 and 3 only, C. 2 and 3 only, D. 1, 2 and 3 only. Rayatwari system is associated with Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro. So the answer would be C. 2 and 3 only. If you look at statement 1, Lord Cornwallis had introduced permanent settlement system in 1793. He is also known as the father of civil services in India. In the Rayatwari settlement system, there is direct payment of revenue by a Rayat, that means farmer, to the Britisher. Next, in Rayatwari system, pattas would be given. They are known as land entitlements to the Rayats, and land would be surveyed and assessed before taxation is set. So the correct answer is statement C. Next question, the Trade Disputes Act of 1929 provided for A. Participation of workers in the management of industries, B. Arbitrary powers to the management to quell industrial disputes, C. An intervention by the British court in event of trade dispute, D. A system of tribunals and a ban of strikes. So definitely the Trade Disputes Act of 1929, the intention of the British was to have a ban on the strikes, the workers' strikes. And they wanted to have a system of tribunals so they can amicably solve the dispute and carry on with the work of the industries and the factory. They did not want any disruption in the work. So definitely statement A is they won't encourage what is happening, whatever is there in the statement A. B, arbitrary powers they would not have, but they're bringing a law so that they can quell the industrial disputes. Option C, they would not do that because then the litigation would increase in the court and it would become a long run process. So this is the time when Bhagat Singh threw the bomb in the central legislature assembly. So here the option is D, a system of tribunals and a ban on strikes. Next question, consider the following statements. 1. The Factories Act of 1881 was passed with a view to fix the wages of industrial workers and to allow the workers to form trade unions. 2. N.M. Lokhande was a pioneer in organizing the labor movement in British India. Which of the above statement is correct? A. 1 only, B. 2 only, C. both 1 and 2, D. neither 1 nor 2. Here the correct option is statement 2. N.M. Lokhande is known as the father of trade union in India. Okay, so he was a pioneer in organizing labor movement in British India. That is the correct option. That was during 1884, 1885, same time when Indian National Congress was formed. And we must remember the first trade union formed in India is Bombay Millers Association. Now coming to statement first, the Factories Act 1881 was brought out by Lord Ripon. It was to regulate the working conditions and working hours of the people. Nothing to do with wage payment and formation of trade unions. It was just regulating the number of hours people work at the factory, including the hours allowed for the children. So the answer is B, 2 only. Next question, the Montagu-Chelmsford proposals were related to A, social reforms, B, educational reforms, C, reforms in police administration, D, constitutional reforms. Here we have to know Montagu-Chelmsford reforms in 1919 is related to the constitutional reforms because it talks about preamble, it talks about diarchy, it talks about reserved list, transferred list, and how subjects are being divided between center and provinces. It talks about jurisdiction of powers between centrals and provinces. It talks about bicameralism, direct elections to provinces. It has nothing to do with social reforms, education reforms, and police administration. So here the answer is option D. Next question. The plan of Sir Stanford Cripps envisaged that after the Second World War, A, India should be granted complete independence. B, India should be partitioned into two before granting independence. C, India should be made a republic with the condition that she will join the Commonwealth. D, India should be given the dominion status. So for this we have to know Cripps mission was formed in 1942 and Mahatma Gandhi ji called it as dead as doornail because in 1942 it was already late and Cripps mission had recommended giving India the status of dominion status, whereas Indians wanted complete independence. So the answer is option D. So we did not talk about A, B or C. The correct answer is option D. Next question, with reference to cabinet mission, which of the following statements are correct? A, it recommended a federal government. 2, it enlarged the powers of the Indian court. 3, it provided for more Indians in the ICS, that is Indian Civil Services. Select the correct answer using the code below. A, 1 only, B, 2 and 3 only, C, 1 and 3 only, D, none. The cabinet mission came into India in 1946 and it recommended a federal system of government. So option 2 and 3 is wrong. The answer is A. We must remember two important points about cabinet mission. When cabinet mission came into India, Cripps, Sir Stanford Cripps, he was a member of it, but Wavell was not a member of it, but he took part in the cabinet mission proposals. Next question, the Government of India Act 1919 clearly defined A, the separation of power between the judiciary and legislature. B. Jurisdiction of the central and provincial governments. C. The powers of Secretary of State for India and the Viceroy. D. None of the above. So I had told you about Government of India Act 1919 is clearly telling us about the jurisdiction of the central and provincial governments. So here the option would be statement B. That's the correct answer. Next question. The Radcliffe Committee was appointed to A. Solve the problem of minorities in India. B. Give effect to the Independence Bill. C. Delimit the boundaries between India and Pakistan. D. Inquire into the riots in East Bengal. Here we know that Radcliffe line runs between India and Pakistan. So the option is C. Delimit the boundaries between India and Pakistan. Next question. The partition of Bengal made by Lord Curzon in 1905 lasted until A. The First World War, when Indian troops were needed by the British and the partition was ended. B. King George V abrogated Curzon's Act to the Royal Darbar in Delhi in 1911. C. Gandhiji launched a civil disobedience movement. D. The partition of India in 1947, when East Bengal became East Pakistan. Here, the correct option is Lord Curzon's partition plan of 1905 was abrogated, withdrawn, cancelled by King George V at the Royal Darbar in Delhi 1911 because there was a huge protest and Swadeshi movement had launched. So it was successfully abrogated. The answer is option B. Bengal partition took place, but it did not take place as per the plan of Lord Curzon, because clearly India came to know it was trying to divide the Hindus and the Muslims. So there was a lot of protest against it. Here we have to know Gandhiji is not yet in India. He comes to India in 1915 when the Gandhian era starts. Let's look at the CSAT English comprehension question. Many farmers use synthetic pesticides to kill infesting insects. The consumption of pesticides in some of the developed countries is touching 3,000 grams per hectare. Unfortunately, there are reports that these compounds possess inherent toxicities that endanger the health of the farm operators, consumers, and the environment. Synthetic pesticides are generally persistent in environment. Entering in food chain, they destroy the microbial diversity and cause ecological imbalance. Their indiscriminate use has resulted in development of resistance among insects to insecticides, upsetting balance in nature and resurgence of treated populations. Natural pest control using the botanical pesticides is safer to the user and to the environment because they break down into harmless compounds within hours or days in the presence of sunlight. Plants with pesticidal properties have been in nature for millions of years without any ill or adverse effects on the ecosystem. They are easily decomposed by many microbes common in most soils. They help in maintenance of biological diversity of predators and the reduction of environmental contamination and human health hazards. Botanical pesticides formulated from plants are biodegradable, and their use in crop protection is a practical, sustainable alternative. Question. On the basis of above passage, the following assumptions have been made. 1. Synthetic pesticides should never be used in modern agriculture. 2. None of the aims of sustainable agriculture is to ensure minimal ecological imbalance. 3. Botanical pesticides are more effective as compared to the synthetic pesticides. Which of the following assumptions given above is correct? A. 1 and 2 only. B. 2 only. C. 1 and 3 only. D. 1, 2 and 3. First, we have to read the entire passage, form a summary of the passage in 3 to 4 lines, and then we have to read each option again and again give reading of the passage and look at our summary. With this, we come to know that they're clearly not talking about statement 1. Should never be used in modern agriculture. That is not there. The third option, they are not telling us about the effectiveness of the synthetic pesticides. They're telling us that one of the aims of sustainable agriculture is to ensure that we have to balance ecological and we should ensure minimum ecological imbalance. So answer would be B2 only. Thank you.